All right. Welcome to episode number 3 of Don't Boo Vote. My name is Jordan and I am a member of the Forsyth County Democratic Party Communications Committee. Before we get to the interview today with Ms. Elizabeth Goodwin, first vice chair of the Democratic Women of North Carolina, a dear friend, colleague, fellow Demon Deacon, and a mentor, I want to provide a voting update and a voting reminder. And let's hit the first voting reminder. The Forsyth County Democratic Party is encouraging everyone to request a mail-in ballot. Why, you might ask? Because if there is a surge of coronavirus cases in the fall, around November, we want you to have already voted by mail, or at the least have a mail-in ballot on hand in case you don't feel safe enough to go to your polling place. If you decide to go to the polls, make sure that you rip up your mail-in ballot and throw it away. Just a note, although I think most of you know this, you cannot vote both by mail and in person. You have to do one or the other. But if you are determined to go to the polls, and after this announcement I'm about to give, you might feel safer about that, we want you to have a mail-in ballot in case at the last minute you decide you don't want to. Let's say October rolls around and things are really getting bad. Then we want you to have that option to send in a mail-in ballot as opposed to having to show up to the polls. We're trying to give you room to have a change of heart. So remember, anyone who can vote by mail in the state of North Carolina. But you have to fill out a state absentee ballot request form in order to receive a mail-in ballot. The state absentee ballot request form needs to be received by the County Board of Elections, that would be Forsyth County Board of Elections for most of our viewers, no later than 5 p.m. Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. Folks, please do not wait that long. The election day is November 3rd. If you are sending that in before October 27th, it is way too late. Go ahead and get on the Board of Election website, print off a mail-in ballot request form. It is called the State Absentee Ballot Request Form. Print it off, fill it in, and mail it back to your state absentee, to your local Board of Elections, your county Board of Elections. And you can find that form again on the North Carolina Board of Elections website. And I will link to it here in the show notes just so you can see where it is. Now, you can also get that that state absentee ballot request form from the Board of Elections, Forsyth County Board of Elections, or you could reach out to us if you're having trouble traveling or you want something delivered. The Forsyth County Democratic Party is going to work hard to make sure you get that state absentee ballot request form. So we're going to have volunteers bringing them out to folks if you have trouble traveling. So that is the reminder. Mail-in voting, we want everybody to have that option so they can be safe come the fall. The update for today is that Karen Brinson Bell, who is the executive director of the State Board of Elections, issued an order to protect voters from COVID and reduce the chance of long lines and crowds at voting sites for the upcoming general 2020 election. These new rules include some of the following. Early voting sites must be open for at least 10 hours on the weekends of October 17th through 18th and October 24th through October 25. All county boards must take significant precautions to protect voters and poll workers from the spread of the disease. Social distancing at voting sites will be enforced. Sanitizing common surfaces and voting booths. Election officials must wear face coverings and make masks available to voters who don't bring their own. We are going to strongly encourage voters to wear a mask, and each county board must open at least one early voting site per 20,000 registered voters in the county. Early voting sites are allowed to be open before 8 a.m. and later than 7:30 p.m. so long as all sites in the county do so. So one precinct can't have early hours, or one early voting site can't have early hours and another one not. It's got to be uniform throughout the county. But nonetheless, I greatly appreciate the Board of Elections trying to further protect the voters, but this does not mean that we shouldn't request a mail-in ballot. The mail-in ballot protects you from having to take any risk on election day or during the early voting period. So, Um, I don't think I've emphasized this enough for today, but go ahead and fill that state absentee request form. Go ahead and fill that out and send it in right away so you can get that ballot delivered to you by mail if that's what you choose to do. I've talked too much. I am so excited to have one of my favorite Democrats here with us today. Elizabeth Goodwin is first vice chair of the Democratic Women. She is blue through and through and has mentored me quite a bit and encouraged my own active in the Democratic Party. I'm going to bring you on here, Elizabeth. Welcome to Don't Boo Vote. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Jordan?
Where are you? That office looks so nice and
It's my
professional.
kitchen.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I thought about sitting in front of the gallery wall in the living room, but I've heard you're supposed to sit at a table when you do these things. So.
Yeah, in case we're on, Rate My Room on Twitter or something, I think you need a couple books back there, maybe.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe put something up.
Elizabeth,
Okay.
thank you so much for doing this and being here with us today. You've got so much to offer, and I'm so excited for this conversation. So let me just go ahead and jump straight into the super hard stuff, okay?
Okay.
A Pew Research study conducted in August 16th of 2018 estimated that Hillary Clinton carried women 54 to 39 against Donald Trump. But a recent Quinnipiac poll has Biden leading women 59 to 31. And as you know, that's quite a swing. So here's my concern. If Trump normalizes and manages not to insult a female reporter for a week or two, the media is going to go crazy about how Donald Trump is finally tamed. And I'm afraid that that lead with women shrinks. And I want to note that the difference between Biden and Hillary primarily comes from white women who have been, changing their preference. Women of color have been consistently in the camp of the Democratic Party contender. Here's my question for you. Is there any way the Democratic Party can keep those prior voters and potential defectors? Is it a messaging issue? What do we do?
So I think that messaging is part of the issue, but not the entire issue. I was glad that you noted that it's mostly white women that we're seeing this problem with. If we like to break people up into these blocks, right? These interest groups, these affinity groups, and what we've seen is that women don't necessarily vote as a block, right? We don't vote as an affinity group. You're much more likely to see people identify first with their race, particularly minority groups. Black women will vote as a group, but not just all women, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And black women are definitely the backbone of the Democratic Party, and we should pay all homage to them for what they do. But turning to your original question about messaging, I think we need to remember that, first of all, women's issues extend beyond reproductive health care, right? I've seen a lot of times in the past we get stuck on, okay, well, we need to do a women's ad. Well, who has a good story about why it's important that they have access to, abortion and to contraceptive care and all that kind of stuff? And I agree that's a really important piece of women's issues, but it's not the end-all be-all. We can't rely too heavily on that. We need to make sure that we are messaging to target women. Women are human beings, so they have a full range of issues that they're concerned about. And it's reproductive rights. It's also about being able to take care of sick family members, regardless of their gender, caring for their kids, caring for their parents, and being able to do that without going bankrupt. We have to be about clean air and clean water, that women want that too. And so we need to remember to message to them in a way that is comprehensive and not just one little slice of the pie, I would say. I'm not going to lie, the Trump ads that I see out there right now, they sort of terrify me. And
what are you saying?
So it's the one, I don't know if you've seen it, it's the one where somebody calls the police and it rings and it rings and like the answering machine picks up essentially and says, it's going to be a week.
Hard eye roll to that
Right,
ad,
right, exactly.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, we know it's not going to happen, right? They don't
Right.
terrify me because I'm worried it's going to happen. They
Correct.
terrify me because I'm afraid people are going to, they evoke fear in people. So it's like it's going to be a week before we get to your murder or your rape that you'd like to report. And those are targeted directly at white women, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
safety is a huge issue. And particularly during this time of coronavirus, right? Like that's something we need to be talking about and about why we are better on the safety issue than they are. And I guess that messaging, what it does is evoke fear, and we've seen that that's a very powerful motivator in the past.
Sure.
So I think we either have to counter that with an equal level of fear, which I hate saying, I don't want that to have to happen, or we have to counter it with an equal level of hope, right? We have to be hopeful in our messaging in such a way that the fear is overridden. So I would say that that's one piece of it, is making sure that we are communicating the right things to women and not just what we always have, and that we are focusing on the safety and security issue that I think a lot of people are feeling uncertain and scared about the future right now. And so we need to talk about that a little bit more. Lastly, I just add, when you're looking at these numbers, that misogyny is a real thing, right? So is implicit bias. And I think that Biden probably has a more secure lead than Clinton did. I'm not saying that any of this, I mean, some of it was probably very much, front of mind. But a lot of it for people is just, it's like, I don't like Hillary. I'm not sure why I don't like Hillary. I just don't like her.
Yep, I heard
And
that.
we have been very socialized in this, not to put on my radical feminist hat or anything, but we have been conditioned to think of men as leaders. I do it myself. And so when you think about who you can see sitting behind that desk in the Oval Office, the image that pops to mind is not a woman usually. So at least Joe has that going for him. So
yeah,
we're going to give it to him.
Yeah, I just think this is so smart about being multifaceted and having so many other issues besides simply reproductive rights. And I think that's the one that always is so mind-boggling to me, is you want to tell voters this isn't in your best interest, and then it turns out that voters like to determine what their best interests
That's exactly right.
themselves.
That's exactly right.
And this kind of segues into my next question, and it's really rich coming. By the way, as a white male in typical fashion, I should have been listening to you much more than talking these past few years.
I mean, 100% think that all the time in every regard, Jordan.
This is the most quiet I've ever been, and it's been.
I know. I'm just waiting for you to jump in somewhere. Let me just keep going. And
No, I learned so much. This is instructive to me to shut up. But I too have been conditioned to that I have so many important things to say, and my job is to take a step back and listen. And that was great stuff. So my next question is this then: as a male, a white male voter who's probably not only going to simply engage with other white male voters at some point, I think it's hard for men to fully realize what's at stake for women in this upcoming election, right? Like the fear, men just aren't carrying around that same level of fear because our reproductive rights aren't under attack. So how do male voters communicate with undecided women? Because again, people don't like being told what their interests should be.
Sure, that's a great question. So I think that you're right that, I don't know, I think that male voters have a lot to be afraid of right now.
Yeah.
But they don't feel the fear over the same things, right? Mm-hmm. And so necessarily, some of the same things, sure. But you're right. We are just one bad cancer treatment at this point, unfortunately, away from having a new Supreme Court justice need to be appointed. It is imperative that we get Donald Trump out of there and we get a Democrat in. So I will say, I think you are also right that you are needed, straight white men in particular, are needed to talk to other straight white men, and tell them why this is important, why it's important to you, why it's important to your families. So that's piece one. Like, your voice is very important
Are
there.
you sure? Because we have a pretty good history of screwing it all up.
Well, that's why I need the ones who are smart about it, like you, to make sure the other ones don't screw it all up. Okay.
Gotcha.
So I would say that one of the lessons that I learned, um, that I take most to heart, I started learning in law school, I guess, and then I picked up and further evolved when I was working for Obama. And it's that politics is not about logic, and it's about your heart and your gut. And so, regardless of who you're talking to, the last thing I want to tell you to do, in fact, I will tell you not to do this, is, Jordan, don't go and talk to a woman and be like, but you have to vote for Joe Biden because of, abortion. Like, what are you thinking? You need to talk to people about what matters to them. And so the first step is, like we've been talking about, listening. It's ask voters, what is your most important issue for you right now, right? What is the thing that maybe keeps you up at night? And listen to what they say and ask them questions to understand it better. And after you do, think about what in your own life what experience do you have that relates to that? How can you display empathy? I understand how afraid you are right now about sending your kids back to school with this coronavirus stuff happening. Like, I've got kids too, or I've got elderly parents who I'm worried about, and like, identify with them and say, these are the things that I'm feeling also. I identify with you. And then you pivot to why your choice is your choice, why you made the choice for Joe Biden, why you made the choice for Roy Cooper, why you made the choice for Terry LeGrand, hopefully. You talk to them about, these are some of the reasons why this makes me feel better, right? To think that this person will be in power. And that is the way that we found is the most productive way to have conversations around these things, and most productive in the terms of getting results, getting people to see your point of view and perhaps be persuaded.
Wonderful.
Part of that is that we're going to have a lot of those conversations, and we're going to need to make sure that we have them up to the time when it's time to just say, okay, we've had this conversation, you've made the decision, now go vote, right? So we're in this persuasion sort of time period right now. It's not as big. The universe isn't as big, I will say, as it has been in the past. I think that we're definitely a lot of people are more clear-cut about who they're supporting, I hope. But there are still people out there that we need to have this conversation with, and you're right, a lot of them probably are white women. So.
Now, let's go a bit local. Tell me about the Democratic Women's Mission, what y'all are focusing on right now, what do you have coming up, and how can we, the viewer, help and get involved?
Absolutely. So thanks for asking. The Democratic Women, we are an official auxiliary of the North Carolina Democratic Party. It is our mission to help get Democrats elected, specifically and particularly women Democrats. And it's also our mission to represent the issues and concerns of Democratic women to the Democratic Party and to be advocates for them in that regard. So our goal this year is to get as many women Democrats out to vote as possible, and hopefully voting for as many Democratic women as possible. We're organized so that we have individual chapters in counties across the state. Forsyth County definitely has a chapter. You should. The number one thing you can do to help us is go become a member, right? If you are a woman who is registered as a Democrat, please become a member. We need you. The number and the volume of the women that we have directly speaks to groups both inside and outside of the party about our strength. There's definite strength in numbers, and we have a lot of work to do, and we could use your help. Now, if you are anyone besides a woman who is a Democrat, as long as you are not a Republican, you may also join the Democratic Women in most instances. It's up to the individual chapter, but most of our chapters would be more than willing to accept your dues money and have you become an affiliate member. You won't get to vote usually, and you don't get to hold an office within the organization. But we could really use your dues money to help get women elected. That's what we use that for.
And Amanda just commented asking if we will post a link. I will. As soon as I end this conversation, I will post a link to the North Carolina Democratic Women's page. So,
thank you.
Do you want to go
Appreciate
ahead?
that.
Can you go ahead and give that now? Do you have that on hand? If you want to give it verbally,
You can look it up on Facebook. We've got
Okay.
a page on Facebook.
Great.
It's Democratic Women. I think we're also democraticwomenofnc.org.
Okay. I didn't
And
mean
if
to put
you
you on
don't
the
see
spot.
no, you're fine. If you don't see the information that you need on either one of those pages, you can email democraticwomenofnc@gmail.com, and we'll get the information for you.
Great, and I'll post it soon. So
Thank you. We are getting ready to roll out a program called the Power of the Pen, which I saw. It looks like Forsyth County may be doing something, similar to this, but this is an effort that we're working with all of our chapters to do, where they write letters to other women voters about this is why it's really important to me to vote, and this is why it's really important to me that you go vote.
awesome.
And having that personal connection, we know it takes 7 to 10 touches, if you will, 7 to 10 interactions usually to get somebody to vote. And maybe more than that now, I'm not sure, but at one point it was 7 to 10. And this is going to be one of those touches, maybe a couple of those touches, because it's personalized, so it counts a little bit more. At least in my head it does. And so that's one of our big projects. Our other big thing is that we're hoping to encourage helping women who are running for seats for the state legislature, particularly ones that are in key seats. One of those is right there in Forsyth County, and that's Terry LeGrand. Terry's seat in our North Carolina Senate is pivotal. We need her. We need at least 5 seats to flip the Senate, and we need 4 to tie, 5 to flip. And if we get our Lieutenant Governor Yvonne Hawley elected, then 4 will be sufficient because she can break that tie. But we need 5 to flip, and so there are 5 seats that are being targeted. We're supporting women who are running in seats that we think could potentially be flipped from Republican to Democrat. And part of the reason that's important is because if you want there to be an end to gerrymandering, if you want there to be an end to, not properly funding our public education system, if you want Medicaid to be expanded, then we have to hold one of these chambers. It's just, we've got to do it. And so Terry's the one who, if you're in Forsyth County, please give her some money, please give her some time, and do what you can to try to get her elected. And I can tell you the other ones, but I feel like I've talked for a really long time right now. So
You've done awesome, and I thank you so much for being here. And I want to say too, besides just how smart and brilliant you are and accomplished in this realm, I'm just really appreciative personally because you were the one who told me to focus on the Democratic Party, to actually go to my local Democratic Party and volunteer and get involved that way. And you have never been afraid of saying these are democratic values, where a lot of people today, you'll hear them say things like liberal or progressive. You are always upfront, no shame, and say this is what the Democrats believe in, and they're the ones who are trying to save your ass. And I appreciate you so much.
I don't know if I've ever actually put it that way, Jordan, but yes, you're right.
I think I translated for you. So.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Well, no, I think that everybody is doing good work on this side, right? Like, there's lots of independent organizations. I am thrilled that so many people are involved. I just have always held a special place in my heart for the Democratic Party, and I also think that, we are the infrastructure that needs to exist in order to make this happen. For better or worse, like, we are in a two-party system right now, and you have to work within the system you've got. If you want to get it changed, you still have to work within the system you've got. And, I think that the way you do that is through the party. There are certain things the party can do that C4s and, independent expenditures can't. And so we need all the help we can get.
Elizabeth, thank you for spending your Sunday afternoon with us here, and I really look forward to helping out the North Carolina Democratic Women, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay, thanks, Jordan.
Thanks. Bye, everyone. Thanks for spending your afternoon with us.